Good evening and welcome to TVB News. Financial Secretary Paul Chan said more than 13 million people have visited Hong Kong so far this year, which is an increase of 17% year-on-year. The FS also expected a 10th consecutive month of year-on-year growth for retail sales throughout February. This as authorities will continue to closely monitor the situation in the Middle East and rising oil prices, as well as their effects on Hong Kong. Having visited the Art Basel Fair on Saturday, Financial Secretary Paul Chan noted on his blog that many exhibitors and event organizers were pleased with the increased people flow and positive situation with art sales. He further said many art lovers and collectors came all the way to the city not just for the art gala, but also to enjoy the local delicacies and visit landmarks. The finance chief emphasized that the government will continue to roll out an assortment of large-scale financial, cultural, and sports events to attract high-quality tourists to the city. According to figures from last Friday, Hong Kong recorded more than 13.7 million tourists so far this year, which is a growth of 17% year-on-year. A positive trend could also be seen in the city's stock and housing markets, which helped to boost the catering and retail sectors. The financial secretary expects retail sales figures throughout February, set to be released later this week, will continue its 10th consecutive year of growth year-on-year. In just the first 2 months of this year, the value of local exports increased by close to 30% year-on-year, which marked the 24th month of continuous growth. Private property prices have also risen by 2.6%, marking 9 consecutive months of growth. Regarding escalating tensions in the Middle East, the FS stressed the war's effects on the city are limited, owing to Hong Kong being a primarily service-based economy, which results in comparatively fewer exports to the conflict-ridden region. He added that concerns for local energy supply stability should be alleviated as there's strong backing from the motherland, noting that authorities will continue to closely monitor the situation and assess international energy markets. Secretary for Development Bernadette Lin told TVB News that a dedicated legislation for the Northern Metropolis will slash construction time by at least a year for specific projects. Samantha Lee has more.
The government aims to pass the dedicated laws to streamline statutory procedures for the Northern Metropolis within this year. Speaking with TVB News, Secretary for Development Bernadette Lin said while it was hard to say how the mega project could be sped up, some particular projects could be completed at least 1 year ahead of schedule. I believe some projects are likely to be fast-tracked by about a year. We may have to extend working hours into the night in order to accelerate the construction progress. Streamlining procedures for construction noise permit application would be a great help. A key element of the plan is to shorten the process applications on changing land uses for non-conservation zones from 9 months to 2 months. Concerns mount over whether this will trigger a wave of rezoning applications. Lin believed increasing residential density of some sites could make the investment more appealing for developers. Meanwhile, she pledged that the authorities would not compromise the Northern Metropolis' overall strategic positioning. Tendering is currently underway for Hung Shui Kiu Ha Chun, with a deadline set for July 3rd. The development chief noted that after reviewing over 20 expressions of interest, she felt local and mainland firms have shown genuine interest in the project. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
Dozens of journalists and supporters marched through central Beirut to protest the killing of 3 people, including 2 reporters in southern Lebanon. They accused Israel of deliberately targeting media workers. Demonstrators held posters of journalists Ali Shoaib and Fatima Fatouni and chanted anti-Israeli slogans calling for accountability. Shoaib worked for Hezbollah's Al-Manar TV, while Fatouni was employed by Beirut-based Al-Mayadeen TV. The third person killed was Fatouni's brother Mohammed. Protests said the attack was part of a broader pattern of violence against journalists covering the latest conflict in Lebanon. Welcome back. For several hours early Friday, the U.S. Senate appeared to have finally figured out how to fund most of the Department of Homeland Security before it faced the longest partial shutdown in history. Senators handed House Speaker Mike Johnson their deal and headed for the airport confident of success. Then it collapsed spectacularly. Tracy Furness has more.
Instead, on Friday night, the House passed a bill to fund the entire department through to May 22nd.
On this vote, the yeas are 213 and the nays are 203. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. Pursuant to the adoption of House Resolution 1142, the Senate amendment to H.R. 7147 is considered as agreed to, with an amendment consisting of the text of the Rules Committee Print 119-21.
Johnson said he had spoken with Trump about the House Republican plan, and the president supported it. House Republicans were livid that the bill passed by the Senate does not fund immigration and customs enforcement and border patrol. Democrats refused to fund those departments without changes to immigration enforcement practices. The collapse of the deal leaves Congress now on a 2-week spring break, with no easy way out of the impasse that has put DHS into a shutdown since mid-February. It has also exposed a rare rupture between the two Republican leaders in Congress, testing their alliance as they labor to move another set of President Donald Trump's priorities into law before the November elections. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
2 sailboats that went missing while carrying humanitarian aid to Cuba have arrived in Havana, days after they went incommunicado because of bad weather. The vessels carrying 8 people departed from Isla Mujeres in southern Mexico on March 20th and then lost contact, fueling concern in Mexico, Cuba, and beyond. In a post on X Saturday morning, the Mexican Navy said an aircraft spotted their boats 148 kilometers northwest of Havana and that a boat was on its way to provide help. The French ship entered Havana Bay in the afternoon, where few people were waiting because of the unexpected arrival. The Tiger Moth followed half an hour behind. An increasing number of countries and aid organizations have sent shipments of aid to Cuba, as a U.S. fuel blockade has caused crippling blackouts and has pushed the Caribbean nation to the brink of collapse. Japanese police has searched the Self-Defense Forces base where the Chinese MC Intruder is stationed, as well as his residence on Sunday, on suspicion of unlawful entry, according to Kyodo News. Authorities said a man claiming to be an active-duty SDF officer carried a knife and forcibly broke into the premises of the Chinese embassy in Tokyo by scaling the wall last Tuesday, threatening to kill Chinese diplomatic personnel. The lawbreaker was arrested and detained on the same day. He has been identified as Kodai Murata, a 23-year-old second lieutenant with the Ground Self-Defense Force stationed at Camp Abino, Miyazaki. The Chinese embassy has officially lodged a solemn representation with Japan and demanded a thorough investigation for a responsible answer. A humpback whale stranded again in Germany after it was freed near a Baltic resort last week. The complicated and delicate efforts to rescue the 12 to 15-meter whale off a sandbank earlier captivated Germans, with media sending news alerts of updates on its progress and streaming live video from the scene. The whale swam through a man-made escape channel on Friday, but it was spotted the next day near the coastal town of Wismar. The marine mammal is unlikely to survive in the Baltic Sea long term, as the salt concentration of the sea is not high enough, and the creature has already developed a skin disease. It also won't be able to find the right kind of nutrition it needs. Starting next month, residents of the 7 affected Waffle Court buildings can return to their units in phases to collect personal items. The government has issued instructions and guidelines for those intending to enter the structures, such as residents only being allowed to enter into their own units, as well as strongly suggesting against pregnant women, children, and the elderly from entering the buildings. It has been more than 4 months since the devastating fire that destroyed much of Taipo's Waffle Court. For residents of the 7 buildings affected by the blaze, they can begin entering their damaged homes in phases to collect personal items starting on the 20th of next month. Each person is allowed a maximum stay of 3 hours. This as the government issued instructions and guidelines for those who wish to enter the buildings. Residents are only permitted to enter their own respective units and are barred from filming other units or individuals on site without consent. As those entering the structures could only head up to their units via stairs, authorities strongly suggest that elderly people, pregnant women, and children should not enter the buildings, noting that the structures are currently in extremely poor conditions. Residents are also barred from using washrooms inside their units, urging those who wish to enter to use provisional facilities set up by the government prior to entering the buildings. A maximum of 4 people are allowed to return to a single unit for just one time. Some residents who wish to collect their personal items as a family said they're concerned after reading the guidelines. This man questioned why he isn't allowed to collect his belongings on more than one occasion and asked whether 3 hours is enough. Meanwhile, the government stressed it has set the time limit after careful considerations were made regarding fairness and practicality. Starting today, all passengers departing from the Hong Kong International Airport can bring no more than 2 power banks on flights. Some travelers, however, said they were unclear about the new instructions. Samantha Lee has more.
At the Hong Kong International Airport, no official signage concerning the new rule could be seen this morning. Some passengers said that airline staff did not mention the change during check-in.
充电宝是一个很重要的一个配备嘛。
This man said power banks are essential gear for hikers like him, so he always brings 2 every time he goes aboard. Another traveler said the airline or airport staff should give them a heads up, as people risk having their power banks confiscated or thrown away. While this passenger believes it is a reasonable move, she said she would have charged up at home if she knew the new arrangement in advance. In 2025 and the first month of 2026, a number of power banks on different flights caught fire, seriously endangering crews and passengers. To tackle the emerging risks, the International Civil Aviation Organization has introduced new power bank restrictions to improve aviation safety last Friday, capping power banks at 2 per passenger on flights. Passengers are also banned from recharging these devices during flights. Flight crews, however, may continue to carry and use power banks as required for aircraft operations. The Civil Aviation Department says it notified all airlines to implement the measures to enhance aviation safety. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
It's the cherry blossom season again. While Japan is a classic choice for flower viewing, there are plenty of stunning spots in China as well. In recent years, Yangzhou has been promoting its flower viewing economy, combining cherry blossoms viewing with creative cultural experiences to attract visitors. Celine Chan reports from Yangzhou.
The legendary poet Li Bai painted a picture of Yangzhou in spring that has captured the world's imagination for over 1,000 years, with a classic line heading downstream to Yangzhou amid March's blooming season for the misty blossoms. Drawn by the romance of Yangzhou in spring, Ms. Liao, a visitor from Sichuan, shared that she grew up learning about these places in the ancient classic poems in Chinese textbooks. She wanted to see the beauty of these places with her own eyes and experience what the poets experienced back then. The misty blossoms Li Bai wrote about in the Tang Dynasty in fact described willow catkins drifting like smoke among Yangzhou's vibrant spring blooms. Today, the slender Westlake Park brings that poetic scene to life, where cherry blossoms now draw elegantly dressed visitors, capturing their own timeless moments. For those seeking a grander sea of cherry blossoms, the Jianzhen Road is a must-visit. This famous avenue is lined with over 1,000 cherry trees. During the blossom season, markets spring up on both sides as part of the city's effort to boost the flower economy by integrating blossom viewing with local food and intangible cultural heritage.
The
Jianzhen Cherry Blossom Avenue is completely free of charge. It's a public scenic spot. Our goal is to celebrate March in Yangzhou and promote our Grand Canal cultural heritage. We've worked with nearby attractions, streets, and local businesses to create a cohesive experience that combines cherry blossom viewing with cultural activities, so more stakeholders can benefit from the tourism.
This year, the Jianzhen Sakura Avenue is expected to welcome over 100,000 visitors. Yangzhou's cherry blossom season this year started at the end of March and will last until early April. But don't worry even if you missed it out. The city's floral emblem, the Chinese viburnum, will be in full bloom soon, together with gorgeous wisteria. Celine Chan, TVB News, Yangzhou.
And that's the news. Thanks for watching.